Hey everyone, this is Martin, and I am inside yet again because it's cold outside yet, and so I'm sitting next to the wood stove here, and we're up to day number, what are we up to? Day number 18, research process for a land purchase. And just so that you know, my tolerances back here are within the factory specs, so don't worry about it. If you see this back here, it looks like it's too close to the wall and all of that. It's within factory specs. We went through all last year and it was fine. so we're good here. And the other thing I want to cover real quick is if you haven't done so yet, go to below the video here and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Turn the notifications to all. That way you get them all as we finish coming out with, we've got 30 of them coming out all together with this video series. And the other thing is that we decided at the last minute to publish a companion book to the video series called Back to the Land. And if you're interested in that, you do not need the book to complete the video series and get the benefit of the series through video. If this is just, it organizes my thoughts a little better than what I do on videos. And it also has a place where you can scribble notes and things like that. Below the video down here in the description, you'll find how to get that. You can get them through Amazon, or you can get a cheaper, $3 cheaper, unedited version directly from us if you want to. So that information is down there. Okay, so let's get started. And we're going to talk about the research process for buying land. And for those of you that are ready to buy land right now, just start now. For those of you that may think it might be a year, 6 months, or a year, or maybe 5 years down the road, you need to start now on your research anyway. And so depending on how far out you are with your actual belief that you're going to be making your purchase on your back to the land purchase process, you really do need to start now. And because the importance of that is, and I see this all the time, is that people are ready to buy. I see it on social media a lot. And you don't want to get caught up in this trend. And they're ready to buy land, and they're asking the most silly basic questions that they should have answered for themselves long ago before they ever got to the point where they're ready to break out their checkbook and write a check. And it always leads to disaster. Okay, so the only way that you're going to be able to bypass that mess is to start researching now and continue to research up to the point where you buy land. Now, I am not in a land buying mode right now, but without exception, I still research land continually because, there's things that we would still like to do that's going to require us to buy land. And I'm not ready to do that right now, but I'm researching so that I've educated myself on the values and the locations and all of that kind of stuff. So when a deal does pop up that fits my future plans, I'll be able to jump on it because I know, because of the research that I've done, that is a worthwhile deal for us. And you've got to position yourself in exactly the same way in order to be able to confidently make that decision when you get ready to make it. And it starts with figuring out what's out there. Now, if you have not figured out the location where you're going to end up being right now, you need to start working on that, I guess, to start with. So research and use a nationwide real estate app of some kind. Zillow comes to mind, Realtor.com comes to mind. Those are two that I will use occasionally that basically have a nationwide coverage. And I know that there's other ones too. I see one called Billy Land come up, but I don't know anything about that. So I don't know for sure whether that's how legitimate that is or how accurate it is. But you do need to start figuring out kind of the location, because obviously land here in Southwest Missouri, out in the sticks away from everything, is going to be a lot cheaper than land, say, in one of the states on the coasts. Or possibly, as the closer you get into a larger community or an urban area, the higher the land prices are going to be. So you really need to kind of start pinning down locations that you're after. If you're after cheap, then you need to get away from urban areas, you need to get away from tourist areas, you need to get away from all of that. Go out in the middle of nowhere kind of areas and start researching land to find out what that land is. And find out, is it worth paying that cheap price to get land that's so remote that you have to drive 50 miles to a grocery store or a gas station. So you need to start working on location some. As soon as you can kind of start to pin down a location in general, then you really need to switch away from those national ones over to some local realtor websites, because they're going to have the local multi-list, the real estate licensing board multi-list for that area. And every single property that's listed through every single realtor that's in that system is going to appear on that multi-list. And all realtors are going to have access to that same multi-list. So you don't have to figure out, well, which one does and which one doesn't. They all have access to the same one. What you need to do is, when the time comes, which right now is not the time for that, but when the time comes where you do start looking for a realtor, if you choose to go through a realtor, then you're going to want to have one picked out that's not an obnoxious one, or not going to try to force you into thinking that you got to buy something, pay more for something because the ones in your price range aren't available. There's a lot of reasons for that we'll get into in a minute. But as soon as you can narrow down your region to where you can get onto a local multi-list site, even if you are looking at 3 different potential areas and they're under 3 different multi-lists, then get off the national ones and get onto a local one. And the national ones will all claim that they've got all the same stuff, but they don't. That's been my experience. Some of them will have Realtor.com is a pretty good one, and a lot of realtors use that. And if they do, my experience is they seem to have about a 5 to 10% fewer number of listings on there. And I don't know if it's because they just haven't propagated over to that platform yet or what, but it evidently takes some time to do that, and they won't all be there, especially the new ones. And the new ones are where sort of the fresh meat is. Okay, so if you are not watching for the new ones to pop up, then you're going to miss those, because the bargains, when they pop up, someone else is going to snap them up before you even know that they're there. So you really do need to get onto those local ones as soon as you possibly can. As far as the realtor itself is concerned, do you need a realtor to do this? You do not. To start doing the research, you need to start figuring out what average size of number of acres per value per acre or cost price per acre is going to be. You need to start getting some fixes on that. If you're looking at going to be buying something that has a house already built on it, you need to really sort of get an idea of what the values of that is too, so that you know how to compare. Because when you get to the point where you're ready to buy, you don't want to be asking yourself, well, I found this thing and I think it's a pretty good deal, but I really don't know. You may wonder forever, and it may lock you up to the point where you're paralyzed with the lack of information that you've got. So you've got to start getting this stuff under your belt. Get the information in your toolkit, because you need to know that to be able to purchase with confidence. Otherwise, you're going to end up purchasing something that you're guessing on, and it may be a good deal, but it may not. So you really do need to start researching and gather notes and details on these things as soon as you can. Now, when I say start researching, I'm not telling you to go in there and get on the computer and spend 2 hours a day on there. I'm not. What I'm suggesting you do is, maybe to start with, on your first go around, get on and spend about 2 hours researching everything you possibly can. Then all you really have to do is maybe get on there once a week, just browse it for 10 to 15 minutes and see if there's anything new. And if there is, make notes on it. Take note of it. Figure out, how does that compare, and, file that away in your databanks. So you really only need to spend maybe 15 minutes a week once you get started, but it will take you a while to go through all of it to start with. Down to the realtor thing. All right. At some point, you're going to want to involve yourself, unless you just don't want to work with a realtor. At some point, you will want to involve yourself in one. And I would say about 3 to 6 months out from where you think you're going to be purchasing, would be a good time to start contacting some local realtors. Now, let me tell you why I think it's a good idea to work with one. Okay. So if you're a buyer, you are not paying anything extra to to buy a piece of land that someone else has listed through a realtor. Okay, the seller is going to pay that. And yes, they probably factored that in, but all of them are going to have been that way. Unless you're going to go try to find and deal directly with a owner seller, you're going to have to deal with the fact that there's going to be a realtor involved, whether they're representing you or your seller. And trust me, there's going to be one involved in 95% of the transactions that you're going to be looking at, because that's how they end up on the multi-list, is a realtor listed them. And that seller's realtor is going to be representing both them and you, but they're committed to them, the seller. And they're not there to represent you. And their contracts will say that. And so whether you have one sort of looking out for your interest or not, there's going to be one looking out for their interest, and they're going to get the benefit of both halves of the realtor commission. Okay, so you might as well go ahead, get one that you're comfortable with, and work with them, because they're going to help look out for your part of the interest in the deal. And, they're going to get paid from the seller, and it's just, they're going to be there to kind of watch out for you. And when you start to interview realtors, many of them are going to try to get you to sign an exclusive agreement with them. And that's okay once you've decided that they're worth working with. But until you've decided that, I wouldn't sign anything with any of them until they're all going to have the same access to the same information, the same properties, and all of that. The difference is going to be is how well they work with you and what kind of quality they have in that process. And so when you talk to a few of them, you're going to figure out the ones that are obnoxious. And there's plenty of them out there that are like used car salesmen that are just going to be obnoxious, or they're going to say, well, there's nothing really in your price range. You're going to have to come up $50,000 in order for you to find anything out there. And if you hear that, just walk away from them, find somebody else. Now, if you're saying, okay, I want to buy 10 acres of land and I want to pay, $1,000, they probably won't be able to find anything like that. That's probably true. But within reason, you need to be able to trust that they're going to work with you and find everything that they can that you're looking for that's in your price range and the description of what you're after. So it's important to do that. Once you've kind of narrowed it down, and don't try to work with multiple realtors, just figure out one that you like that you can work with, because all that's going to happen is they're going to, if you try working with multiple ones, sooner or later they're going to catch on to that, and none of them are going to want to work with you. So because you're kind of spreading them out and you're leading, one of them is going to get burned in the deal. So, and they know that. So pick one, stick with them. If you don't like them, tell them, hey, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to find somebody else, and get them to, delete out the agreement that they've got with you to represent you on that. Okay. So as they bring you through the process of purchasing, and this is going to be true whether you buy with, through a realtor or using them as a go-between, or whether you do one as like a for sale by owner, where you're doing the owner sale thing. The one thing that you have to do, there's a lot of pitfalls that you can fall into if you don't have someone helping you, guide you through that process. But probably the two biggest things is, if you're going to go through that process, educate yourself even more, because you really need to understand that process better yourself. And then the other thing is that don't ever close anything without a legitimate title company or a reputable title company to do the process. They will do the title searches and all of that to make sure that, you're not buying a bunch of baggage with the property, which you can easily do. I've known people that have done it. And they'll also provide you with an option to get title insurance, which what that does is, if they miss something along the way through their title searches and all of that, where they're searching liens or judgments or anything like that, owners that don't show up easily on the title work, and that happens sometimes too, especially with divorces or deaths in the family, things like that. You end up having people on there that really don't show up in the actual title work. And so any of that kind of stuff that they end up missing up front, if it comes to the surface later, your title insurance policy will pay for what it takes to go in there and fix all of that. So you got to make sure of that. Now, for those of you that are insistent upon going through not realtors or anything that's listed through realtors, anything like that, the first thing you've got to understand is that your research is going to be much, much more difficult, and it's going to yield much fewer results because you've got to go out and do all the legwork to find this stuff, whether you find it on Facebook or whether you find it on ads hanging at the local laundromat or wherever you find them. Okay, you've got to do the research to find those things, or driving up and down roads looking for signs. You've got to find all that stuff yourself. Then you've got to deal directly with the seller, which the seller may be very comfortable with and understand the process real well. But my case in buying directly from sellers is that I found that, of course, we've done a lot of real estate deals. My experience is they have no idea what they're doing any better than anybody else would. And a lot of times they're assuming they've got everything together, and they don't. And if you don't know what needs to be done or don't need to be done, I mean, you could end up getting into a real mess with buying property, and you'll see them on social media. You'll see them pop up every now and then. I bought a land and now I'm losing it because the seller lied to me. Well, they may have legitimately outright lied to you, or they may have just been completely ignorant to the whole process. So if you're going to go that route, and it's not a bad route to go, I mean, I include owner for sale by owner properties in my searches whenever I possibly can. But I also know ahead of time that whoever I'm dealing with there may not have a clue as to how the process works. And in most cases, because I've done so much of it, I know more about it than they do. And I can tell that within minutes of the conversation that they just don't know what they're doing. And so whether it's by intentional or whether it's by accident or ignorance, you may be dealing with somebody that has no clue. And if you have no clue, that means there's two of you that have no clue. So it's just important that if you're going to do the for sale by owner, that you are willing to go through the process, and a title company, again, will help you get through the legalities of it, or an attorney. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend going through an attorney, but at the very least, a title company will help get you through the legalities of a purchase. So it's mostly going to keep you out of trouble. They're going to have no idea what the values are. They can't give you advice on appraisals or anything like that, but at least they'll get you through the title searches and getting the proper documentation together. So that's my take on the for sale by owner process. And again, I don't say that it's a bad way to go. You can find some bargains that way. A lot of times people are listing things for sale by owner because they don't want to pay a realtor fee. And honestly, that may be legitimate, but for the most part, you're not going to necessarily find a bargain because they want to make that extra money. So the price is still usually going to be the same. It's just, they're going to make the extra rather than sending the extra realtor fee to the realtor. So I don't know that you can really find that many bargains there. But from a seller's point of view, sometimes that's what motivates them, is to save that commission. And to me, it's not worth it, because even when I sell something, the market for sale by owner has been narrowed down so much because the buyers just have so much trouble finding it, that to me, anything that I've ever tried to sell myself, I tried the for sale by owner routes before, and I found that, I make actually better money by paying the commission to let them do it, because they end up getting it on the multi-list, where instead of having 10 people see it, they have 10,000 people see it. So that's my take on that. So anyway, start your research now. Don't let up until you actually make your purchase. Even if all it does is frustrate you, is like, I can't make my purchase now, I want to, there's a good piece of land. Start your research, that when the time comes where you are ready to start purchasing, or are ready to start that process, you'll have educated yourself and know what a good deal is from a bad deal. And start today. That's the best advice I've got for you. Start today. Start researching it. Start building your data bank of information and understanding, so that you're not ignorant when it goes into looking for actually making a purchase. All right, so tomorrow we're going to start getting into some actual things that you can start doing in the way of gardening, canning, food preservation, some animal livestock things and all of that. All of that starts tomorrow. We'll go on for a few days. Anyway, so remember, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and we'll see you tomorrow. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. See you next time.